Goodness, it's taken
Oh
us
my
so long
God.
to get here.
Too long.
Too long.
Yes.
But hello, everybody. Welcome back to episode 3 of the One Day podcast. We have been having major technical difficulties today.
For sure. I've been turning off the Wi-Fi, turning everything off. I even turned off my microwave off. Yeah,
It's
I restarted my
crazy.
router.
Yeah.
I upgraded the internet just so I could have faster internet. And it's not even, I feel like I'm paying way too much now for nothing,
It's
So,
fine. We'll figure it out. I feel like we always joke about how, like, without the internet, how would we do this?
oh man, we'll
Like,
be
how would
screwed.
this work?
That's a lot of, that's expensive. That would be a lot of phone cards.
Yes, those old school phone cards that
Oh
you have to
man.
pick up from the corner store.
I have to buy like pigeons now.
You have to write me handwritten letters.
I know. I could type it. I'll get a
Right.
typewriter.
But yes, everybody, welcome back to episode 3. We're going to jump straight into things today just because it's a pretty like broad topic, I think. Like there's a lot to cover.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking about like when you get too comfortable in your relationship. And obviously
Right.
this pertains to both regular relationships and long distance relationships. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think it's important to be comfortable.
Yeah, to some degree,
know.
of course. Yeah.
You want to be comfortable with your partner. You want to get to know them as much as you can so that there's not a lot of insecurities. You don't feel embarrassed. And just it's in general, like you're going to be, if you're there for the long haul, you want to be comfortable with them. But
Yeah.
this topic is being too comfortable with them. So,
Yeah. Which I feel like naturally we may not even notice that we are getting too comfortable. It kind of just
true.
gradually happens over time.
Mm-hmm.
Because always, it's usually like that in the beginning. You're on your like best behavior.
Right.
You're trying to impress the other person.
Yeah, those times you definitely want to always put your best foot forward and, you want to smell good, talk like, like you have manners, you show
Right.
manners,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You dress well, you smell good. You try to impress, you want to make sure that they know, hey, this is something you want to be with for the long run.
For sure. Yeah. It's kind of like when you're applying for a job.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't just walk into the joint just like you obviously would want to be like dressed for the part. You want to look the
Right.
part, smell the part. Smell the part, that sounds so
Smell
funny.
Wanna smell
But
the
you know
part.
what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you want to make sure that you're putting your best foot forward to get the position.
Yeah. I mean, you don't want to go in there like, your hair is not done. You didn't take a shower. You're late. You're not, that tells them that you're not reliable. You're not, visually, I'm like, well, I don't know if he's not put together. I don't think he could run our company or
Right.
do this job. So.
Right. So I think
But-
that's how it kind of relates to like a job. At least that's how I think of like, yeah, when you create first impressions in a relationship and when you first start out, of course you're trying to impress the other person and be the part. And I know it sounds funny when you think of it relating to a job and you say like you're auditioning like for the position type thing. Like I saw this quote or this meme rather. And it was saying how like getting into a relationship is basically auditioning somebody and figuring out whether they want that part for the rest of your life. And I was like, yeah, that kind of makes sense in a way. Like,
it does.
Yeah. So I think that's how it relates to the whole interview mindset of like you want to put your best foot forward. And then naturally, I know I've definitely experienced this before where I get a job and I'm like, you slowly like get over it. Like it's
Yeah.
all new and fun and fresh and exciting. And then you get into a routine and then you get comfortable with it. And then you might like, I don't know, stop putting in as much effort when it comes to getting ready
Right.
for work, or, you know, you might be running a little bit late, but that's okay.
I remember, just as an example, I remember working for a job. Actually foot action, and in the beginning, like you said, in the beginning of your job, it's exciting.
Yeah.
You're new, you want to learn, and you get the hang of it, right? And I remember, like, the first week, I was killing it. I was selling so much shoes.
Oh, yeah.
I was outdoing the assistant manager's numbers,
Okay.
and it's just me talking to people and not even selling the shoe. I'm just like talking to people and being friendly because that's just how I am. And for some reason, they're gravitating to me, and they're just like, oh, well, they just start buying. And I remember that first week, they were like promoting me to an assistant manager already.
Really?
Yeah. So
Sheesh.
as soon as I got that job for that set, literally I had 40 hours there and a 40-hour graveyard shift, like a night
Goodness me.
night job. I was working 40 and 40. I was getting maybe 3 to 5 hours sleep, if that. And I would get to that job, and I'm like, you know what? After a while, you're doing your numbers, you're doing okay.
Yeah.
Then you start getting like comfortable, like, oh, it's
Yeah.
getting a little late. To me, I was still hitting my numbers, and I was selling a lot still. But like after a while, you're like, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't be talking to that much people anymore, or I've just put not that much effort into it.
Yeah,
and
because it's
again,
like, yeah, you get the position. Like, you did all the hard work to get the position
right.
and create that space for yourself. And then it's like, okay, I'm just chilling. Like, I got it.
Right.
And I think, yeah, that's how it definitely relates to relationships, because
Right.
once, not to say this in a bad way, but yeah, like, once you get that spot, it's like, cool, the hard work's done.
Exactly.
But I definitely feel like relationships, while it is like a team, like it's a team effort and it's a partnership, and I'm all about like relationships are teamwork, like that. I always say that. But it still is up to us as individuals to continue to put effort in, regardless of like how comfortable we get,
Right.
especially for us being long distance. Not to compare like long distance and regular relationships, but there are some aspects that we do miss out on because we are long distance, and we kind of have to get creative with trying to make sure that we aren't getting too comfortable in this space, in this season of our lives.
Right. No, I mean, we definitely, like, we're a perfect example. At least for us, I know we went through regular relationships and now we're in a long distance.
Yeah.
Everyone experienced these things. Everyone experienced a honeymoon stage, what they call a honeymoon stage.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And majority of people, they think, oh, honeymoon stage lasts only in the beginning. It's like the first 3 months or the first whatever beginning of the relationship. And not a lot of people know, like, no, that's something that you can spark back up,
Yeah, and I think a lot of the time when you tell people that, like when you say, like, oh, you can get back to that stage again, they're like, yeah, like,
Right.
you hear it, but you're just like, yeah, okay, whatever, but not really, because the honeymoon phase is over. But
Yeah.
the way I view relationships is that it's like a constant cycle, right? So, you meet someone, you're elated, you're in that honeymoon phase where everything's like all happy. Things they might do might not bother you. Everything's all happy days, getting to know somebody. It's fun, fresh, exciting, and new. And then eventually over time, naturally, something might happen, a situation, an argument might occur, and then you kind of drift into that stage where you experience like a little bit of difficulty.
Yeah.
So then you're sitting in that stage and you're feeling like, what's going on? And then it's either you take two paths, either you work together to get through it or you leave. Because I feel like in relationships, there's really two options. Like either you're going to stick it out together for life or you move on. Like as blunt as that sounds, those are the two options for relationships. So
Pretty much.
once you get into that stage where you guys might have a disagreement, it's up to the two of you to want to move back into the resolving stage, which then leads into the honeymoon phase again, where you're like happy and elated. Because I think people only think of the honeymoon phase as when something is completely brand new. But I
Right.
feel like the honeymoon stage can be that happy period that you reach after, you know,
Mm-hmm.
a disagreement or an argument. Because I'm not about to sit here and pretend like you and I are perfect. We definitely have
No, I
disagreements
mean,
here and there.
we definitely everyone's not the same. Everyone's
Mm,
built differently. Everyone's raised differently. Our
yeah,
viewpoints and our all of our upbringing is all different.
exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, definitely not everyone's gonna see eye to eye, but you know that's the whole point. It's compromising and finding out what's relatable to you. Or plus, again, there's a lot of times that you can agree to disagree, long as
Yes.
you're not barking back and bringing back up.
Yeah.
So
As long as you're on the same page. So yeah,
right,
that's why when you say like the honeymoon phase, and yeah, naturally people think it's just like the beginning first stages of a
yeah,
relationship. I think it's like a constant cycle that you experience
for
time and time
sure.
again throughout the lifetime
Hmm.
of your relationship. It's not just like, oh, the first 6 months or year is done. We
Hmm.
know each other. That's it. Like we're chilling now.
I
Like
said, I don't know if you caught what I said. I said
you
three
said three
months. I'm
months.
like
God
that.
damn. I was like,
That was really
okay, just
short.
3 months. All right then.
I'm like, oh, I'm done. Yeah, but I think that's what it is. It's like, honestly, maybe because that phrase is such a, it's like, when you get married, you get a
Yeah.
honeymoon. So
Mm,
obviously people think, I'm like, okay, well, when that's done, it's done. It's over. That's it.
mm,
You're off the honeymoon stage. But
yeah.
yeah, for us, I mean, we really definitely had that cycle.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you got to understand, we've been apart, especially now, we've been apart over a year now.
I know. Don't
So
remind me.
I know, but one thing I told Lizelle in the beginning, I'm like, or at least for me, I knew what I was going into, so I didn't feel so bad. I'm like, you know what, I know the goal, and I know this is something that we can do, and I know mentally for me and emotionally, I know we're gonna get there. But like, that's what keeps me excited about the relationship. To be honest with
Yeah.
you,
Mm,
just because I know we have so much more to go, so much more to experience. But again, there's times where yeah, we don't see things eye to eye, and
yep.
you know, and
For
it
sure.
happens
Yeah.
for
Definitely.
sure.
But
Yeah,
the one thing that I do love about us is that we do make sure to resolve things. It's not like whenever we have disagreements or
yeah,
arguments, it's like you just leave it and that door gets
hmm,
shut and you don't deal with it because it's just easier to shove it like in the other
right,
room or under the rug or whatever and just don't talk about it, forget about it, it's done. But I feel like for us, we've really made it a point in our relationship that if we have an issue, we talk it out.
hmm.
Even
I
if it
mean,
does turn into us arguing and like, you know what I mean? But we always make sure that we talk it out.
we definitely. I mean, in a way, we have to. Like, this is all
I
we have.
know.
Like, I
Yeah.
wish. Trust me, not a lot of people get to experience, but yeah, like I wish I could just hug her, or just
Mm,
that will already say, hey, we're seeing eye to eye.
yeah.
But
I think,
we
yeah,
have to talk.
definitely.
I have no choice but to talk.
Yeah. And I
You know.
think that's where communication, of course, that's so important in a
Hmm.
relationship, but in long distance, there's no other choice. Because, yeah, a lot of the times, if you are having an argument with your partner, sometimes you don't need words. You just need to like have that physical, like human connection where you hug, let
For
them know that
sure.
you're there. But in long distance, you don't have that. So,
Yeah.
like, you got to hug me with your words, babe. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
it's
honestly,
hard
you
sometimes.
you nudge me and say, "Hey, look at me," or "You're doing this," or "You're not doing this." So it is all
Mm,
communication,
yeah, it
and it's
is.
again, it's trial and error.
Mm,
We've been together for X amount of years now, and it's like sometimes we do get into that space of like being comfortable, and we forget.
mm,
Like even today, today I usually text Lizelle before I leave the house. So to let her know that I'm leaving and stuff like that. But I knew
mm-hmm.
I had to wake her up soon. So I was like, you know what? Let me just not text her because I know I have to wake her up soon. But for her, she wakes up and she sees there's no text. She's gonna be like, hey, what's going on? Like, or she hasn't heard from me.
Well, yeah, and
So
because I was like trying to contact you and you weren't responding, I was
yeah,
like, for me, like, okay, I naturally worry a lot. So if I,
Yeah.
okay, because we have like a routine
Hmm.
how we do things. If I
A
like,
good routine though,
we
like something
do.
that we know we supposed to do so that we know each other ones is safe. So,
Yeah, because to me,
hmm,
yeah, like for me, it's all about safety. Like, I always make sure that I text Alan, like, when I get home or if I'm
right.
leaving or vice versa. So if I wake up and I'm trying to get into contact with you and you're not there,
Hmm.
I'm like, oh my gosh, is he okay? Like, did he go out?
Yeah,
Did something happen to him? It's so bad, but my first thought goes to that like
I
negative
know.
mindset, and I need to really retrain myself for that. But because I just have this mindset of like, you just don't know what's going to happen, like you really don't know. So yeah, I tend to get worried. So when you didn't text me this morning
Yeah.
and
And
then I was trying
she
to
called
contact you,
me.
you weren't answering. I was like, oh my gosh, something must have happened. Like he must have got into an accident. Like I hope he's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, today, literally, when you were calling me, I was driving, and I was
Mm,
driving with my daughter to
mm,
go take her to a bike ride.
mm-hmm.
So usually that's our routine. We'll take her out. I'll take her out after school and stuff, and
Yeah. But
enjoy
usually
the
you'd let me
day.
know that. Like
I
you'd be like, I'm
usually
taking her
do.
out.
I figured, and I miscalculated on this, but I figured I'm like, you know what? Like I'm gonna wake her up in 15 minutes, and I told her I'm gonna wake her up at 5:30 in the morning because she
Yeah.
wants to go out for a walk today. So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna call her. I'll wait. I won't even text. I know I'm gonna get there already to that destination, and I will just call her. But she happened to wake up, and she happened to call me
Uh-huh. I
numerous
woke up
times.
early. Yes.
I drove. I was driving. I didn't have my ringer on, and I had my my iPhone in a bag. So I'm like, I couldn't hear anything until I stopped and we got there. And
Mm.
I finally, I'm like, holy crap, I missed so many messages and
Yeah.
phone calls. And then my mind, I'm like, oh crap. Like, I know that she's worried because I know Lizelle. So I know she's worried. Let me call her. Let me see, test the waters and see how she is.
Stop.
And then I'm like, you know what, this will happen. And, we fixed it. We talked about it,
Mm.
and that's it, you know? So,
Yeah, I think I'm not saying like, oh, Alan got too comfortable and he didn't text me. Like, it
yeah.
happens, you were
Hmm.
going to, but then it just didn't work out that way. So yeah, I think like if I didn't talk to you about like how I felt about that, if I was just like,
Hmm.
okay, whatever, like he didn't text me, then you naturally would probably just gradually stop texting me. And then, does that
Pretty
make
much.
sense? Not
Yeah,
to
if
say
you
that that's
didn't,
a bad thing, but
if,
if you kind of
hmm,
let things go, like if I'm uncomfortable with things or you're uncomfortable with things that I do, vice versa, and then we kind of just don't bring it up and don't talk to each other about it and we
hmm,
just let it be, then naturally we just chillin'. Like we just chill and we're like, oh well, it's okay. They don't care.
hmm,
But really deep down inside, it might be something that's bothering the other person. They just don't say anything.
right,
So that's why I think it's important to be comfortable enough where you can, yeah, open up to the other person, let them know what's up, let them
right,
know what you're okay with, what you're not okay with, and obviously, like, naturally be comfortable around them,
hmm,
but also not get to that point where you're like too comfortable that you stop doing the little things. Because I think that's the number one thing when people think of like, oh, we got too comfortable.
hmm.
The number one thing they would probably think of is like, oh, we just stopped doing the little things.
Yeah, it's honestly the devil's in the details. It's the littlest things, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like just
Yeah.
for us, like texting you in the morning, greeting you, or saying goodnight because, we live in the opposite sides of the world. So, because you have to also understand that tells your partner that you're thinking of them and they feel special
Yes.
still.
Yeah, it
So if you
does.
stop doing the little things,
Yeah.
then they're not gonna feel as special as they felt in the beginning.
Yeah, that's for
So
sure.
you definitely have to keep doing the little things to get back to that honeymoon stage. You just need to do those little things. You
Yeah,
don't forget.
for
But
sure.
there's so many things that like people get like too comfortable with. After a while, you get into a routine, and then you just like, okay, well, she's there. Some people are like,
Mm.
oh, I already have her.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I won already. Like, like she's there
Yes.
already.
Yeah, I think that's that kind of mindset where, well, how does the quote go? It's kind of like people talk about like, oh, the chase is better than the catch.
Mm,
Because I
right.
think I don't want to put this too broadly, but like, yeah, for men and women, I think men especially, the way that you guys are wired. I'm saying this very broadly. Obviously, not all
Mm-hmm.
men are like this, but the way that guys are wired, like they do naturally like that chase
Mm-hmm.
and to work for something. And then once you get that catch, it's just like, okay, so what next?
Right.
Like what comes after that? And then I think that's where, things can start to get a little too comfortable and you stop putting in the effort to dress up or even like look
Yeah.
good, smell good,
Right.
that kind of thing. So those like
Like
little things.
there's a lot. I mean, there's little things, but those little things pile up though,
They do.
right?
Yeah.
Like say, in the beginning you're going out to eat, you guys go out, and then next thing you know, you start going out even more and out to eat, and then you guys stop working out.
Yeah.
Like first you want to look good for them and you want to be fit, and you start going out to eat and eating more, and then next thing you know, you're like, oh, you know what? I love you how you are. It doesn't matter if you like gain weight or whatever, but like you just forget those little things, and then
Yeah.
it piles up, and you both gain weight, and it's like the confidence ain't there. I think it's important to be healthy, to have
Yeah.
longevity in the relationship. Not everyone, like I'm not getting any younger. I definitely need to keep up with my health every day.
Yeah.
But even with that, it's just getting comfortable, right? And then you don't you stop doing your hair, your makeup. I stopped getting
Yeah.
haircuts. It happens. It happens a
It
lot in
does. Yeah, it
relationships.
definitely does. I think, like, for us, right? Because we're long distance.
Mm,
Obviously, we haven't seen each other for a minute. But I personally still like to put effort in,
mm-hmm.
even though I don't get to see you in person. I still like to put effort in to make myself look presentable. Some days a
Mm-hmm.
little more glam than others, but I still
Right.
like to make sure that even if I am sweatpants, hair tied, chilling with no makeup on, I still like make sure that I am
Right.
like at least looking decent, not like scruffy out here. Because for me, I do it for myself first of all because it makes me feel confident,
Mm-hmm.
like as a person. But also, yeah, I think it's important to just do that for yourself because it makes you come across as confident. But then that also exudes onto your partner, like you exude
For
that energy.
sure.
So then they look at you and they're like, "Damn, that's my baby."
Yeah. I mean, you can tell. I mean, I always say this, like you probably make the best decisions for guys, at least I know, or even women, but you make the best decisions after you get a haircut
You
because
do say
you
that,
feel
yeah.
really good.
You're like feeling
Honestly,
yourself.
yeah. And I always tell you, like, don't make, if you're emotional and you're negative, don't make any decision. That's when you
Yes,
stop.
yeah, yeah.
But like after you get a haircut and you feel good, trust me, if you
Mm,
got a haircut, you're just gonna put a nice outfit on. You're not gonna put like something bummy after you get a good haircut.
uh-huh.
So
Yeah,
once you start looking good, you start feeling good, and then like you said, it exudes, and all that energy goes to your partner, and they're like,
yeah.
oh, okay, he has a little pep in his step today, and you
Mm-hmm.
know, it really, that energy goes, it transfers to you, and if
Yeah.
you lose those things, and you're like, you know what, I don't want to shave, I don't want to cut my hair, I'll
Mm,
just let it go, or
yeah.
just look not decent, for
Yeah.
your partner. It's not gonna be good. Like it's just a discipline that you should have for yourself.
But even still, I think, yeah, of course, regardless, I firstly, I know this is gonna sound super corny, but like, I fell in love with you for your heart and your soul. But for real though, I like when I fell in love with you, it's for who you are on the inside, and I
Hmm.
know people be saying that, and it's just like, yeah, right, okay.
Right.
But seriously, like in this relationship, I definitely fell in love with who you are on the inside. So
Hmm.
regardless of how you show up to me, I'm like, yep, that's my man. Like he looks so good, so handsome. Like that's just how I am. Once I'm in a relationship, it's like eyes locked in on you, like you're my man, you look good. Like that's just how I am. So
Mm.
regardless of like, I know naturally we talk about like partners letting themselves go and like stop putting in effort to how they present themselves and whatnot.
Hmm.
But for me, I'm just like, you look good. That's just how I am. But
Yeah.
yeah, for myself, even though we are long distance and the
Hmm.
only time we get to really see each other is on FaceTime, I still like to put in effort to look presentable for myself, which is also helps me have confidence to present myself to you. Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah, for sure.
yeah.
Yeah, like right after I get a haircut, I like send you a video of
I
like
know,
the
I love
haircut
it. I'm
right
like, that's
after.
my baby.
You know, like it's like I haven't had a real like a barber haircut in like years, and for me to like be proud of like, hey, I learned how to cut hair.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna show you what I've done because it took me a while, or it
Oh,
takes
I
me.
love it.
It's a hard time to do it, you know. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, there's a like we talked about. There's so many little things that people get comfortable,
Yeah.
and you just honestly, you just again, you get into that routine. You're like, okay, well, I got her already, or I got him already. And then, you know, you just start the effort. You're like, you just stop putting too much effort into it. Like
Yeah.
you start, like when you're going to pick your partner up, you're like, oh, don't worry, I'll be there. And then you're like starting to be late, you know.
You know what I just thought of?
Yes, I did. I do.
When you said your
As
partner's
soon
late,
as-
I was like,
As soon as you gave me that look, I'm like, I was trying to compute like, okay, when was I late? And I know exactly what it was.
Oh my gosh. So
You want to
funny.
tell them what it is? It's
Oh,
okay. I'm
man.
okay.
Okay.
I'm completely comfortable with
Yeah,
it.
I mean, I definitely don't hold this against you, but whenever we talk
It's
about
okay.
being late, I'm like, oh, I remember that one time.
It's a big one time because it was your first time.
I know, yeah. So when I flew over to the US for the first time, I I landed in JFK. You know what? I remember on the flight there, I actually had Wi-Fi on the plane.
I
So I was
remember.
able to text you and be like,
Uh-huh.
oh my gosh, like I'm nearly there. And you know, I've been on a plane for like nearly 24 hours traveling to see
Yeah.
my man. Like I was just so excited to get there and to finally see him. So
Yeah,
I'm all texting you like,
Well, I think we took like what, a 5-month break before that.
I
That's
think-
why we haven't seen each other in
yeah.
like
I mean,
4
not
to
a
5
break,
months.
not a break.
Not like obviously we
We
haven't
were
seen each
apart
other
for 5 months.
apart for 5
Yeah.
months. Definitely not a break. We never took a break.
Right, yeah, never taken a break. But yeah, I remember I was so excited to get there and I'm all texting you and you're like, yeah, I'm on my way. I just gotta quickly go do some things. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that's cool, babe. I get to the airport and I'm going through like immigration and all that, customs, picking up my bags. And you're like, oh, I'm leaving now. And I'm like, like I'm waiting in the airport. Like I thought you'd be here already. And you're
Yeah.
like, I think we got on the phone at that time. I can't remember. You called me. And you're like, oh, I'm heading down there, but there's traffic. And I think, how long did I wait so you actually got there?
Like an hour.
Yeah, an hour
You know,
and a half, an hour.
An excuse is an excuse, right? There's no excuse for that, right?
Yeah, it's like you
But
just didn't plan it out
I'll
properly.
tell you exactly what I was doing.
Okay.
I was so again. It's been like 5 months. I haven't
Yeah.
seen her, so I'm like, you know what? Let me make sure I look good, so
Oh,
that
yeah.
at least when she sees me, yeah. Honestly, that's what
Yeah.
happened. And then I
Yeah.
miscalculated my time.
He was
Then
cutting
I
his
didn't
hair,
cut-
guys.
Exactly, probably, but I know for sure I miscalculated, and I looked at the time, and I'm like, oh, I could get there in like a half hour, 45, and then I hit Manhattan traffic. It was horrible.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? Your flight was getting in at 1 a.m., 1 p.m.
1 p.m.,
And I was like,
yeah.
oh, we'll be fine. There's no traffic then. So I thought I was good.
Yeah.
Like literally 1 a.m., 1 p.m. after, you know, lunch break and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I got to the Midtown Tunnel and I'm like, holy crap, she's going to kill me. So I got there, you know, at least I had to explain to her. I'm like, no, I never expected that traffic, but I should have left like 2 hours ahead, you know?
Yeah, it's fine.
So
It just
The
felt
lesson
so
learned.
good to finally be reunited. Like, but I was
Yeah, I
like
mean-
sitting in the airport, like first time touching down in the US. Don't really
Right.
know like what's going on. I'm like looking around. I'm like, I mean, I'm sure I could have like called an Uber or wherever, but I was just like, I kind of felt like, oh, he said he was gonna be here and he's not here.
Right. Well, that Uber would have been so long,
Yeah.
to be honest. It took us 2 hours to get home after I picked you up.
I think it
So
took longer than that, actually.
it was two plus because
Yeah.
you definitely knocked out, and I was just like, because I know you were still tired, and the time
Mm-mm.
difference too. So I was driving, and I'm like, man, wait, when can we get back already?
I know.
You know, so
I
you
fell
could.
asleep too. The
You were
jet lag
hungry
was
and tired.
crazy. Yeah.
So yeah, but anyways,
Yeah, so
yeah,
I mean that's just like a one-off type of thing, but I
yeah,
think what you were referring to is like, yeah, when you start, it's kind of like when you get comfortable with work. If you're running like late, you're
hmm
like, oh, it's cool. Like, boss doesn't
I'm
care. It's
guilty
fine.
with that. I've
Yeah.
definitely done that with all. Like I had about a good 10. I know I had 10 plus jobs in my whole life. I've been working since I was 14, so
Mm.
trust me, I've definitely been comfortable at my work. Where to the point, I know one job was like, you know what? If you're late again, I think we're gonna have to let you go. But to be honest with you, it was in college,
Yeah.
and it was like a super early morning job. Like
Okay.
I switched my schedule and I went to a night school.
Mm.
And I was like, you know what? Let me get a full time while I was down here. I was in Atlanta at the time for college, and
Mm-hmm.
I was like, let me make some money and let's go to night school because it will be easier, and I can get a full time job in the daytime. What I got was a stock, like to stock restock job, and it was easy. It's just that getting my butt up that early, like 4 in the morning,
Yeah.
to get there by 5 was like it was a struggle. So like I literally sometimes I had to go drive an hour early and sleep in the car and put my alarm
Oh my
just so I can be
goodness.
there at 5 in the morning.
Yeah.
But sometimes, guess what? One time I slept in the car too,
Oh gosh.
and my alarm went off. I was late and I was already there.
Oh my gosh. You
So
still were late.
exactly. So I was late numerous times. I was already there. I was late,
Mm.
and again, I definitely took it for granted too. So it's definitely all that. So I
Yeah.
definitely experienced doing like just being late for work and
Mm.
taking it for granted, you know.
Yeah, I think that's like where you get comfortable. Little things like that, like being
Yeah.
late or putting in effort to how you look. But
hmm
getting comfortable can also kind of form into where, like, the way that you treat your partner as well.
Yeah,
We
for
spoke about
sure.
this, right?
We
How,
definitely
like, you get
did.
too comfortable when it
hmm
comes to the way that you speak to them or
hmm
the way that
The way you
you
address
treat
them,
them. Yep.
address them or not address them. Like you've seen couples or you've seen people like they'll walk into the inside the door and they won't even acknowledge their partner. They'll just walk through, drop their stuff, and
Yeah, I
you
never
know,
understood that, like walking into a space and not announcing. I don't mean like, hey, what's up? Like, I'm here, everybody. But I mean, as in, like, even
exactly.
just to greet your partner. Like,
hmm
I can't imagine like walking into the house and just like as if I'm living by myself. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I can't imagine
Right.
walking in
Like
and
you're
not
like a piece of
being like,
furniture and
hey,
you're just there.
right. Yeah, it just seems so
Right.
like inconsiderate and rude to me. That's just my
hmm
personal opinion, but yeah, I think one tone that we set with each other from the beginning of our relationship is that we never wanted to put each other down, even in a joking way.
Mm, right.
Because I think
For sure.
when you get into that comfortable stage, I know some couples are cool with it, which is totally fine. But I
Yeah.
think for us, it comes as like a respect thing. Like if I was over here calling you like a dummy or an idiot or things like that, but I'm
Right.
just playing, I just don't think
hmm
it's very nice, like to address like the person that I love like that, or anyone like that, really.
Right.
But especially like the person that I love, like I just, even if I'm like playing with you like, oh, you're so stupid, or like, oh,
Right.
idiot,
Right.
like
Right.
I just didn't like that. So that's something
Yeah.
that we definitely like set with each other, is like, hey, let's not call each other like names or put each other down even if we're joking, because sometimes, you know, one other person could take that personal. I know I would take that personal because
You
I'm
know
not
what?
one for jokes, but you're definitely like, that's how you were brought up.
Yeah. I was just gonna say that. Like, don't get it twisted. I definitely was that person. You know, growing up. I mean, again, 90s. I tell her this all the time. In the 90s, that's all you do.
You roast
You
each other,
literally
yeah.
rag on everybody. You
Mm,
roast on anyone,
mm,
and you got to be quick with it. You know, like you're in school, that
mm.
yo mama jokes and all that stuff. You kind of like learn how to have tough skin,
Yeah,
a thick skin back then,
yeah.
because in school, that's all they're gonna do. In the 90s, they don't care. There's no type of movement like we have now, like, you know, fat shaming, all that stuff, all the shaming stuff. They didn't have that in the 90s. Like everything, it's literally gloves off. So you could talk about anybody, their mom, their sister, their outfit. Like, trust me, you get clowned on everything back then. And for you to kind of defend yourself, you got to kind of learn how to like snap back and joke around and, you know, and just defend yourself pretty much. And there's times, definitely in the beginning, the reason why she said we set this tone is because I did it and it was my fault. And I didn't know, you know, I'm talking to her and I'm thinking I'm joking around, but I'm like, oh, I get it. It's pretty hurtful.
I mean,
so
like,
I like,
don't get it wrong. I can play, but,
for sure.
But
no,
I
you're
mean,
a big girl for sure. You can definitely take the jokes, but I get it. You know, you get too comfortable and you start calling them stupid and idiot and all that stuff.
Yeah,
it's not good.
I just don't like it. And like, you know, I just feel like they say not to take things like personal. I don't take things personal from anybody else. No one else. I don't care what anybody says to me. I don't take anything personal. But when it comes to my fiance, like my man, I will take it personal because that's the person. Like, I'm like, why would you say that? Like,
she does.
Like, I'm a big baby when it comes to my fiance, guys. Like, I will take it personally. And like I said, I don't take anything personally from whatever anyone says to me, any hate, whatever. But even if Alan's like playing with me, like I can play, but sometimes he takes it too far, and I'm like, hold on a second.
I'm gonna admit that. I'm like, yeah, that's a little too much.
Yeah, so I think that's, and then if I were like to just leave that, and then I hold that against you, like, oh, he's like so mean to me, like, then that kind of starts to like fester within you, and then
for sure,
that's where you start to lose respect for each other. And I never want us to get to that point where we're so comfortable with each other that we just like talk smack to each other, and then it gets too, because you know how sometimes you can get into an argument with someone and then it's all fun and games at the start, then someone gets hurt and they're like, oh, well, do you know what I mean? Like they get too like hurt by it, and then you're like, oh, whoops, sorry, too far. Like I never even want to get to that point. Like,
no, I don't. I mean, and the good thing is, like you said, we set the tone in the beginning, because imagine if you were sweeping this under the rug the whole time and you didn't even mention it. What happens is when you sweep it under the rug and you let this fester and build up, then you're gonna have a blowout. It's just gonna come out, and it could be like something small, and then you're like start going off on, because of all the built up emotions you had holding in all that anger, or like I should have said that at that time, but the fact that you set the tone and you say, hey, you know what, we shouldn't do this, we shouldn't do that. You know, we even said we shouldn't fart in front of each other, right?
Yeah.
You know how some couples are like, which is, again, it's to each his own, but at least for us, we know, like, hey, these are our parameters. This is what we like and what we don't like.
Yeah. And I mean, like, okay, I'll be real. Sometimes, it accidentally happens. Like, that's cool. But I mean, I'm not out here, like, purposely just letting it rip like Eddie. Like, I don't know. I just, like
fart drive-bys.
Yeah, nah, sorry. I just can't get with
farts.
that. Yeah, like, I just think, like, oh, it sounds like so proper. Like, I don't fart. But I mean, as in, like, just
everyone does.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. But I mean, like, in front of you, like, as my partner, because I have so much respect for you as my fiance. Like, I don't know. I just always felt like I wasn't, like, wanting to do that to you. You know what I mean?
And you know, it's funny, like, a lot of people, or some people would say, well, that's when you know, you're comfortable.
They're the one, yeah.
It's like, they're the one when they could fart on you. You could be in the same room while they're doing number two. You know, like, you could talk to them. I'm like, no, I don't want to I want to, like you said, like, put your best foot forward. And like a job interview, you want to always show the good and have that, thought of them being that way, you know. And again, it's natural, but if you do it intentionally and it's like, okay, well, that one, it stinks, and the situation stinks, the fart stinks.
Right, yeah. So I think that's just mainly like a respect thing. And if you go deeper into like respect and getting too comfortable with not having respect, then you can kind of get into, attitude. how you
Right.
speak to your partner,
For
like the way
sure.
you respond to them. Yeah, there have been times where we're kind of too comfortable with each other and
For
we may
sure.
have to check each other and be like, hey, like, what's with the attitude?
Mm-hmm.
Like, are you okay?
Right. Or hey, can you? I know you mean well, but can you say it this way? Or we're not
Yeah.
perfect,
Mm.
so sometimes you would say it harsh, or I would say it harsh. But
Yeah.
I know our intentions is good,
Yeah.
but it doesn't come off that way.
Yeah.
So
So I think it's only natural. Like, of course, nothing is perfect. Nothing
yeah.
stays
Mm-hmm.
perfectly like linear the entire time. And it's like, okay, we reach the honeymoon phase and we stay there and we're perfect and we're always on time. We're always respecting each other. We're always this. Like, yeah, sometimes you do get comfortable with it, but that's completely healthy. I think it is very healthy
Mm-hmm.
to go through that as long as it doesn't stay like
Right.
those negative like type of
Mm-hmm.
situations for a long time where you are like, you know, disrespecting your partner or talking negatively to them or having an attitude,
Yeah.
like more attitude, less manners type thing.
Right.
Because, like, for me, in terms of little things when it comes to showing respect, I don't know, this sounds funny, but like, even if you sneeze, I'll always say bless you.
Right.
And that's such like a tiny thing that really doesn't mean anything, but I don't know, I just like have to say it. And I feel like that's like out of manners. Does that make sense?
No, for sure. I mean, if
Or
you
even
say it
saying
or
like
anyone say
thank
it to
you.
me, right, it goes a long way.
It does, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So when you stop doing like little gestures like that, then that's when you get comfortable and then your partner may either start to be like, well, if they're chilling, I'm chilling, and then you're both
Right.
just like sitting back, putting in less effort, and that can even translate to other things like spending time together, having
Yeah.
quality time together, even sex and intimacy. You might stop doing things like that, which
For
I
sure.
personally feel like is very important in a relationship. I know
Mm-hmm.
everybody's like, "Oh, sex isn't everything." It's pretty important in my opinion.
For
But
sure.
when you start to you when you both start to just chill,
Mm-hmm.
then that's when things tend to kind of go apart. Like you start to drift apart from your partner,
Right.
and then you end up at different sides, different hemispheres, different points, and you're
Pretty
like, what
much.
happened?
Right.
That's why I think it's important to not get too comfortable, but then if your partner is getting comfortable or if you're getting comfortable and you have to check
Mm-hmm.
yourself, at least you're aware of it. I feel like awareness is the first key
For
to know
sure.
like, oh, okay, hold up, like what's going on here, because if you leave
Mm-hmm.
it for too long and you're both just sailing along and then you've drifted apart, before you know it you're like, oh, we're not even on the same path anymore. Do you know what
For
I
sure.
mean? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's like there's a reason why your car has a gauge, right?
Mm,
Like when you're going too fast, too slow.
yeah.
So like in a relationship, you have to know your gauge. You have to know like, hey, am I doing whether if you have that awareness or like we always say like the last episode is communication. Like
Yeah,
if
it
you have a
always comes
problem with
down to that.
it goes back to that.
Mm,
If you have a problem or something's bothering you, don't wait till later on to tell them or to tell her, hey,
mm,
these are the things I feel right now
yeah.
and what's bothering me. So if you address these things, first you got to be self-aware. And if the other person is not aware, you have to bring it up. Communicate, and you need to learn how to communicate that with them and say, hey, I feel like we haven't put enough effort into doing this. Because again, with us, long distance,
Mm,
it gets into our routine. Every week I want to do date night, right?
yeah.
And we got to that point where we're like, you know what? I know we're gonna have it. I don't need to.
Yeah.
For me, I don't need to say it.
Mm,
So I know we're gonna have it. We're gonna eat. We're gonna cook. We're gonna watch something. We're gonna spend time together.
mm,
And I felt like after a while for me, I was like, well, we've been in this pandemic. I know we're gonna do this again. Why would I even have to mention it? Like, I know we're gonna do it. I love doing it. So I was just thinking, why do I have to say anything? Like, I know this is something that we do every week.
yeah, to
But
you, you're
for
probably like, we're gonna do it anyway,
exactly,
so why would I have to say anything?
yeah.
Yeah.
So there's moments where we got comfortable in this pandemic, and
Mm,
we just I that's the worst part. You just start assuming things that
yeah.
like, well, my partner knows that we're gonna do this.
Yeah.
So and then the solution to that, you brought it up to me. Say, hey, remember when you brought it up to me?
Yeah, because like for me, like I love routine, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know this. Like I love planning
Yeah.
things and I love routine.
Mm.
But I mentioned in the last episode that my love language is words of affirmation.
Right.
So while yes, of course I love that we have date nights and we're going to spend time together,
Mm-hmm.
but if I don't want it to be out of routine. Like I think routine
Mm.
is important, but when it's too routine, like there
Right.
needs to be like a good balance between it, because if it's just like up, just getting up and going to work, do it again, going to sleep, getting up, going to work, do it again. Like you want to make
Mm.
sure that you and your partner are still on the same page, that it's something they actually want to do, not something
Mm-hmm.
that they're just doing because it's an obligation or because it's routine. So for
Mm-hmm.
Alan to be like, well, we're going to do it anyway, and I'm like, but do you want
Right.
to? Like for me, because
Right.
my love language is words of affirmation, I need to hear for reassurance that that's
For
actually what he
sure.
wants to do and that he's not doing it just because it's what's on the list of things to do.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's why I brought it up, because I was like, I just want to make sure that it's like something you actually want to do and you're not
Yeah.
doing it just
You
because it's a
you literally
routine.
said, hey, make sure this is something you want to do, not
Yeah.
because I want to. You know,
Mm.
again, for me, what happened is, again, my love language is quality time. So I've already assumed, like, hey, we're going to spend time. I want to,
Mm.
and I just figured. And going back to what I said earlier, it's the littlest things, right? You want to make sure that they feel special. So for us, if
Yeah.
I plan that week or that weekend, say, hey, you know what? I surprise you. Hey, let's do date night. This is what we're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
We have X, 3 options of food. What do you want to go buy in the grocery store? So that
Mm.
we already, because if I plan that way with Lizelle, she knows that I'm thinking about her. I'm thinking about date night. I'm excited,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And like, this is the movie that we're going to watch. This is what we're going to do. Then it's planned and she has options to pick. So at least she feels special. You want to make sure that they feel special.
Mm.
So that's why it's important to communicate those things without like falling into being comfortable, too comfortable.
Yeah, and like naturally, of course, spending time with your partner is important.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I get that it's important to also have your own interests and things that you want to do as well. But I still think it's important to still be on that same page where you're doing things together, because when you get
For
too
sure.
comfortable with it that, you know, I'm going out to parties and you just want to be at home chilling, and
Right.
where we start to become two different people, then that's when it's like you
Mm.
kind of just start to live your own separate lives. And I've seen that happen in relationships
Right.
before where, you know,
For
they get
sure.
too comfortable and then one partner's like, well, I don't really like doing that stuff anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And then they move
Yeah.
on to like going out all the time, or the other person. Does that make sense? Like they have different
Yeah.
interests. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I definitely, for me personally, I went through that. Personally, went through that with numerous relationships in the past, where in the beginning you're doing things together, didn't know that they were doing it just like a job interview. They were doing it to impress you. But I thought, oh, well, they did it for me. I think they're going to do it all the time. And then
Mm.
after a while, it just fades and they just don't want to go do the things that you want to do. And then you're left with like doing things separately.
Yeah, and
And
that's
it's
where
never
it's
good.
like, yeah, it's not good. But in saying that, I believe relationships are, there has to be some compromise as well, and
For sure.
some type of fair exchange. So I mean, it may not always be completely 50-50 fair, but
Mm-hmm.
for example, like if I was like, baby, I want to go shopping to the mall every weekend, and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
ugh, I hate that, but I'll go
Right.
anyway because I know it's going to contribute to your happiness. And then, for example, if you're like, baby, let's go watch a basketball game, and I go once, and then you're like, the next weekend, baby, can we go basketball game? I'm like, nah, you go. Like, you're gonna start to feel like,
Right.
well, I've been doing all this for you. Why
Mm-hmm.
won't you do that with me? And then that's where, yeah, you kind of drift apart again because you have different interests. So even though you might not necessarily have the same interests as one another, which is completely normal and totally
Yeah.
fine, but sometimes we do have to do things that we don't want to do because we
Mm-hmm.
know that it's going to contribute to our partner's happiness.
For sure.
You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
that's where, like, I think you said to me before, like in the beginning when we were first starting to get to know each other, you didn't want to like stop getting to know you.
Yeah.
You had said to me like, I don't want to stop getting to know you, and I hadn't
Mm-hmm.
fully grasped like the concept. I'm like, what is he talking about? Like, what do you mean? Like, you don't want to stop getting to know me? Like, once you know someone, you know them. But
Right.
I think over time I understood what you meant, because like, for example, like who I am today is not the same person who I was 3 years ago. Like
Mm-hmm.
from
Even
when
when
you
we first
first,
met.
yeah,
Yeah.
like we've both of us have definitely grown and evolved as
Mm-hmm.
individuals. And I think we're very lucky in the sense that we like the same things.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But if we had completely unsimilar interests, and then, you know, in the beginning you're like, yeah, I'm interested in that, and then later on you lose interest, and then I'm just like going along on my own doing my own thing, and then you're going along doing your own thing, and then we just start to
Mm-hmm.
drift apart. So
Right.
yeah, I understood over time like what you meant when you would say like, I never want to stop getting to know you. And I think that's
Mm-hmm.
definitely a solution when it comes to getting too comfortable, like being in a
Yeah.
relationship. Is like, a lot of people tend to think like, I've won them, I know them, we're
Right.
compatible, we're chilling, happy ending, the end. Like, do you know what I
The end.
mean?
Right.
Like, but it's not like that at all. As humans, we are constantly evolving and changing and growing,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes that does mean that partners grow apart and relationships end, and that's life. Like, that's completely normal. But
Mm-hmm.
I think as long as we're putting in effort to continue to get to know each other and to not stay too comfortable with like all
Right.
the little things, and like how we talk to each other, how we respect each other, the energy that we give each other, then that at least contributes to the longevity and the quality of our
For
relationship.
sure. Yeah, I mean, I said that, and it hit me that day. I said it to him, like, you know what, I'm really interested in her, and I know, like having past relationships, that's what happened when you get too comfortable. It's because you stop getting to know each other. You
Mm,
stop knowing like what else is she interested in, or what else is she learning. I want to know what she's thinking, she's feeling, so that I know how to respond to certain things. Like there's a point where I know enough where as soon as she calls me, I get her energy. I'm like, oh, she must be sad, or you could tell when she has a good morning, a bad morning, or she went through
yeah, you're
something,
good at
and you
that.
can kind of tell already. And even with that, that's why it's exciting for me, because we're still apart. So when we get together, there's so much more to learn. There's so much
Mm,
more to go through, and again, to keep it like they say spicy in
yeah.
a relationship, you definitely don't want to get comfortable. You just want to get to know them even more. And
Yeah.
I never really want to get to stop getting to know her. I met her, like, I seen her channel 2016. Her evolution since then is insane. Her glow up is crazy,
Oh, thank you, baby.
So it's insane. Like she learned a lot, she grew a lot, she just learned so much and got to know herself even more. So you could never stop like getting to know someone.
Yeah.
And that's when the moment you wave that flag, you're like, you know what, I have her, I know her. That's when it's like you get too comfortable because you think you know her, but you don't know everything yet.
Yeah, because we're constantly changing, like as we
Hmm.
go through the years.
So that I'd say that's where your first solution is, to me at least. If I had to give anyone an advice
If
in
they're
any
too comfortable.
relationship,
Mm.
if you're getting too comfortable, just make sure you want to get to know your partner. It's not like, don't stop getting to know them. So to me, that
Yeah.
was my first advice to anybody. Whether you take it or not, trust me, try it, see how it works. And it's working for us. So
Yeah.
do you have any other advice?
I think what's worked for us is, like we said in the beginning, like kind of setting tones. I've
Mm-hmm.
spoken about this like from the beginning of our relationship, is like setting tones for like
Mm-hmm.
things that you won't tolerate. I know that sounds very like strict, but I mean is in the sense of like, I'm not here for name calling, or do you know what I
Mm.
mean? Like that's just how I am. Like I can get with it. I can play with
Right,
it,
right, right,
but
right, right.
if it goes too far, I'm like, hey, you're supposed to be my partner. Like, why are you saying all
Right.
these mean things to me?
You know, it sounds harsh, but it really isn't. And the
To
way I
say
think about
tones,
it,
yeah.
yeah, the way I think about it, it's literally the way you're putting it, or I see it is you have to tell your partner what you like. If you don't tell them what you
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
no one's a mind reader. You
Mm,
have to tell them what you like and you don't like. And if
yeah,
you say you don't like that, then they'll respond to like, okay, I get it. You know, depends
yeah.
on the situation, but it's really just telling your partner what you like and what you don't like in the
Mm,
beginning
mm,
and set that tone in the beginning.
yeah. I think another solution would
Hmm.
be, I think in this day and age as well, it's because everything's so fast paced, right? It's so
Hmm.
easy to become not present. So I can
True.
tell, like, when I'm talking to you
For sure.
and you're just like, damn, babe, wow, yeah, that's crazy. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
oh, that's
Hmm.
crazy.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
Yeah. And I'm
that's
like, baby,
true.
are you, like, did
Word.
you just hear what I said?
And then you tell me to repeat it. I'm like,
I'm like, what
hey,
did I just say?
repeat that again. You know, when I don't listen to you or you say something and I'm really
Yes.
not engaged, and
Yeah,
I'm like, you know
yeah.
what? I got everything else. Can you tell me the last thing?
Yeah, you're like, baby,
You know,
repeat it. Say it again. And I'm
can you
like,
please repeat it?
yeah, but I think because I don't know, I think like over time, like human beings naturally their what do you call it? Your attention span becomes less.
Hmm.
So when
Right.
you're having like a conversation, sometimes you start to become not present, or with phones, if you're like on your phone doing your thing while
Hmm.
your partner's talking to you, then they can start to feel like, well, does that make sense? Like,
Hmm.
I feel like it can become so comfortable in that sense where you guys may be there, but you're not really there.
Yeah.
And then it's like, for example, I could spend a whole day with you spending quality, what I think is quality time, but if you're not there, I won't feel fulfilled because it's like, yes, your presence is
Hmm.
there, but you're not all there. Another thing as well is like, it's important as well to show gratitude to one another too,
For
because you
sure.
don't always want to be like harping on about like, oh, you don't do this or you're always doing this. Does that make sense? Like, you just don't
Hmm.
always want to be like that nagging mindset. And I think we make it a pretty good point to each other to stay grateful to
Hmm.
each other. And like, I don't mean like we're always like, oh, thank you so much, oh my god, thank you, but I mean as in like we're always sure to tell each other like what we like and what we appreciate,
Hmm.
even
Right.
if it's like a, hey baby, like thank you for spending this time with me. Like, I
Hmm.
think, yeah, when you start to forget to do little things like that, then yeah, like gratitude definitely keeps you in that elevated space where you're like happy and you're just feeling good, as corny as it sounds, like good vibes. But yeah, when you stay grateful for like what you have and what you receive, it's always like a good thing in my mind.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, you know, when you actually sometimes, you know, I know Lizelle like the back of my hand, and it's amazing where I can get a text and it makes me feel good. Like she would
Mm.
thank me for the littlest things, and I'm like, wow, she really, you know, she really thought of what I've done and what I can do. So it can, for me, it helps me want to do more for her,
Aw.
and I love showing my gratitude too. Because, I mean, I could literally list like in a piece of paper, like a book of things that she's done for me. I could spit it out like so quick,
Aw.
and sometimes I love showing her that because, yeah, no one. I'm so used to like doing things for myself for years, for like
Yeah.
over a decade, that
Yeah.
I'm just so used to it. I remember the first time you got me a gift, I was like super
Oh,
shocked. I'm like,
yeah, you were very shocked.
I
I
was
was like,
super shocked.
like it's not that great. For me, I
To
was
me,
like,
it
It's
is.
not that great."
And you know, I again, I'm so used to being so independent for over a decade, just doing things for myself. And when someone gives me something, even something small, I'm so grateful for it. And she shows it like in the best way all the time.
Oh.
And I'm even grateful for that, those
Mm.
moments. So definitely don't like, just be grateful,
Yeah.
you know?
Even down to, yeah, like I said, like even just thanking a partner for like the tiniest things, like, hey, thanks for washing the
Hmm.
dishes, thanks for taking the trash out, thanks for calling me on FaceTime, thanks for spending time with me. Like,
Hmm.
regardless of if you're a long distance or regular relationship, like
Hmm.
you can still find things to be grateful for and to thank your
For
partner
sure.
for. Yeah. So I think
There's
that's really
tons.
important. Yeah. But I think like a major solution, if you think about like, oh, when we got too comfortable, we drifted apart, is to put more effort into spending time together, like get back into doing things together. Because I
For
think,
sure.
like, I've definitely experienced before in previous relationships where, yeah, you get comfortable and like you're doing your
Mm-hmm.
thing, they're doing their thing, and then before you know it, you guys aren't really spending time, like
Mm-hmm.
quality time together. So I think it's important to even do little things, like as corny as it sounds, like cook together, cook dinner together.
True.
And we do that even on FaceTime. So you can even do that
Mm-hmm.
if you're long distance, or even like cleaning up, washing up, doing
Mm-hmm.
household chores together. I know not everybody's a fan of that, but things like that, like washing the car, like things that you can do together, going for a walk,
Yeah.
exercising, working out, like date nights. Obviously, when people think of like, oh, get back into spending quality time together, think about like, oh, we got to do like the romantic date nights and the thing. That's
Right.
great too, but it also can go down to like the tiniest of things, like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, spending quality time together, doing activities, like going for a walk. Like, I know it sounds
Yeah.
lame, but even something like that, like spending
Even
time
for
together
us,
in that way.
we've done that. Like when you
Yeah.
went to the park in the morning, and I'll
Mm-hmm.
go out and walk
Mm-hmm.
and do my thing. Honestly, I wouldn't do half the workouts I do if it wasn't for Lizelle. And sometimes when you do things alone, you get lazy.
Yeah,
So like
yeah, I
you have
definitely
to.
feel that.
It helps when you do it with someone, and to get back to that honeymoon stage or anything to get the spark back up. Just spending time.
Yeah.
That's a really good solution.
Yeah.
Doing things together.
Mm.
You know.
Even like the littlest of things, like I said, like
Hmm.
even cooking together and like washing the dishes
For
together.
sure.
Like it's the smallest thing. It doesn't always have to be like a grand, like romantic date night out, movie night, whatever. Like that's great too. But I think it really does start with the little things and creating habits out of those as well. Because
Right.
it's natural to be like, oh well, I've done it. But I think it's
Exactly.
important to create like a routine and a habit out of things. But
Hmm.
there needs to be like a balance to where it's like not too routine, like how we're saying we spend like date nights together, but I don't want it to be like routine as a job where you're like, oh, I'm waking up in the morning, getting
Right.
ready, going to work, and I'm just here to do
Hmm.
my thing. Like I think like it's important to have a good balance between routine and like the
For
actual desire
sure.
to want to do something. Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, I think those are my solutions. Like, if you're getting too comfortable, and obviously, like to talk to your partner. Like, I know for myself, I'm so comfortable with you that if I feel like something is bothering me, or if even if I like something that you do, I will tell you
Hmm.
like straight up.
For sure. You always do.
Yeah. So I think it always goes back to communication,
Hmm.
like telling your partner how you feel, and I guess like in some ways you can always go back to that like job interview mindset where you're like putting in effort to present yourself well. And I don't mean you have to go out and like get all dressed up and do glam and like put yourself together, but I mean even just like cuz like I have days where I'm just chilling, but I
Hmm.
still like to make myself look like decent at least.
For sure.
Yeah.
I was gonna get into that. I'm like, that's definitely. Don't forget that solution is like really keep up with yourself.
Yeah.
Be
Mm.
presentable with your partner, and not just exterior. To be honest with you, one thing I've learned in the past, I've learned
Yeah.
this phrase before,
Yeah.
is your attitude determines your latitude. And
Yes, yeah.
honestly, that was from K West. Young, we missed that Kanye West back in the days. He said that in a spoken word,
Yeah.
and I literally took that to the heart. I'm like, you know what? That's why you always ask me. He's always positive. He's always, you tell me these things. Honestly, it's because of that phrase that I've heard like
Mm,
years ago.
mm.
Your attitude determines your latitude.
Yeah.
A lot of people look good, and they don't have to physically look good. They don't have to have them like they don't have to be dripped out,
Yeah.
like. But the fact that their attitude and they're light and they're likable,
Yeah.
you can see that they light up the room.
It's
When they
energy.
leave, it's that energy, right?
Mm.
So like when you can attract that or you can give that to other people. Your attitude goes a long way,
It
you
does,
know.
yeah. It really,
So
really does.
you know when your partner walks in and they're like they're pissed off from work, you know that they're not good, right? So like I said, even with that, you don't bring all that problems from work at home. You could talk about it and say, hey, what happened at home, but you can't get mad at your partner. It's all that energy, right? You can't. Speaking of not keep the same energy, don't keep that energy and bring it home.
Don't keep that same energy. Yeah.
All right. So yeah, honestly, I learned so much. Just that alone, I learned so much. I've been living like that for like more than a decade now, to be honest. Your attitude determines your latitude. So not just be presentable in the outside, be presentable on the inside. Be likable.
Definitely, for sure. Because if you're like in a down mood all the time,
man.
of course, energy is everything. Energy is very transferable.
And it's contagious. It's for sure contagious.
It is. Like if we're both feeling a certain way, or if one of us is feeling a certain way, 9 times out of 10 it transfers. Like it's very hard to stay pissed off if your partner is like in a good mood, and vice versa. Like it's proven time and time again. Like energy is definitely everything. Because you know how sometimes people get too comfortable with the way that they talk to their partner or the way that they treat them, or that's why things become off balance, because there's a lack of that like respect there. So if you get back up to that point where you're like, we're not going to talk to each other like this, because this ain't good for the energy between us. Like like you said, energy is
it's very important. So I think we rambled enough.
Sheesh.
And we gave enough solution.
Again,
but you guys, honestly, you guys get the point. You guys been through this. You go through this with just your couple, or even spouse or brother and sister. You go through it with everybody. You get down to that comfortable. You get comfortable with your siblings. You just talk and say whatever to them and call them names. So those advices, I'd say, just don't stop getting to know them. Make sure you put your best foot forward. Try to smell good, look good, feel good for them.
Yes.
The littlest things. Don't forget to, and be grateful.
And talk as well. Like if you're feeling a certain way, communication is key. Major key. The keys. But
I think if there's anything else that you guys would suggest,
let
or
us
anything
know.
that we missed, let us know.
For sure. Man, we keep going over time every single time we sit down to
We say we're going to go just this.
Oh my gosh.
I in the beginning, I said, let's just do 30 minutes. I didn't think we could talk this long.
I didn't
I was like, let's do 30 minutes to 45 minutes. And we always go over.
I know.
It's okay.
But we hope you guys don't mind regardless.
Right.
As always, thank you for spending part of your day with us. Is there anything else you'd like to say, my love?
No, I think just excited. We have a lot more to talk about. There's a lot more topics. There's a lot more things going on in the world. And we just want to share our experiences and all of our, just stuff that we went through and share it with everybody. So I'm just excited for that.
I think a lot of the things we talk about, while we do cover like a topic, we definitely do relate it back to ourselves, because we're open like that. Like we're not perfect, but we don't have anything to hide either. Like it is what it is when it comes to us. So we're just happy that we're able to share not only like our viewpoints and our perspectives, but also our experiences as well, because I think that's where knowledge comes from firsthand, experiences. So like we said, thank you for spending part of your day with us here at the One Day Podcast. And with that being said, we shall see you guys next time. We out.
Deuces.